Welcome to the Bridge of Two podcast. That should work.
All right. All right.
Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome
back to the Bridge of Two podcast.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how to make this work. So
we have had some significant technical difficulties. For those curious, we are doing the bridge remotely. I have had a recent move across state lines, but the bridge must go on.
yes, as we said before when we were trying to do this on Zoom, the bridge just got longer.
Oh, are we putting that? Are we still going to put that in?
It's stretching. We could, because it created a file when we ended the meeting, so it's still out there.
Okay, well, it's something
Usable, potentially. Yeah, so let's just jump right in, though. Anything sci-fi fantasy you want to share with the bridge class?
Oh man, I have not been up too much in that realm, unfortunately. I have been very, very busy with the move and starting this new job. Really the only thing of note is Stefan and I watched Iron Man 3 recently.
Nice.
Continuing I guess we watched Avengers as well. The first Avengers.
Okay.
Continuing our way through the Infinity Saga of the Marvel Universe movies.
Nice.
You know, good Marvel before they got meh.
Yeah. That was a lot. That was for a while, too. They had a good run, for sure.
They did. I watched them consistently up until about Civil War. And then after Civil War, that's when I fell off.
Okay.
But I've always really enjoyed those movies.
Yeah. We watched Iron Man not too long ago. Because you guys talking about that made Aaron want to start doing that. So we watched Iron Man.
Nice. Iron Man's really good.
Yeah, it is. It definitely holds up.
It used to be one of my least favorite Marvel movies, were the Iron Man movies, but now they're up there as one of my favorite.
Probably helps knowing like Tony Stark's full arc, too. Maybe.
I think also just growing up, I have a different appreciation. For movies.
Right.
Like I used to, when those movies are coming out, I was still younger and I just wanted a lot of action. And while there was action, it's just like there's a little bit more nuance to some of the movies and more things going on.
More complexity of the characters.
Yeah. So I've learned to appreciate them more.
As people.
As superheroes.
Anything else to share?
Yeah, beyond that, not much. I haven't done any reading. Started playing a game called Smite.
Okay.
Just for the fun of it.
You smite things.
It's a MOBA. You know what a MOBA is? Like League of Legends.
Yeah. I haven't played many of them, but yeah.
I haven't either. I've never been a big MOBA fan, but I've been wanting something to play that I can just hop on for 30 minutes and play. And so that's been good. So I've been learning the MOBA genre, how to play it.
Okay.
There is another game out. Actually, it's not out. It's still in closed alpha called Deadlock.
What?
I think it's called Deadlock.
Okay.
It doesn't have much branding going on right now, but like I said, it's still an alpha. But if you know someone that is in the game, they can send you a friend, basically a friend invite into it. Then you can also basically get into the alpha for free. And so my brother happened to know someone that is in the game and got into it and then invited me and Curtis. And we've been playing that. It's really fun because it's like Overwatch mixed with like like Smite or League of Legends. It's a MOBA, but it's also a hero shooter.
Mm.
So we've been playing that. That's been a lot of fun. It's got an interesting setting, characters. The art design's pretty cool. But I've been enjoying that. But that's really all I've been doing because I haven't really had much time to sit down and play any games or read or do anything else. Unfortunately.
Right. You'll get back in the groove.
Yeah, I'm starting to now that I'm kind of getting settled. I'm not enjoying having to go to work every Monday through Friday right now.
Yeah. So you're actually off now. It's the weekend now for you.
I am. I want to go back to my 12-hour shifts.
You will, right? Once you're like been trained and stuff.
Oh yeah, 5 weeks. I have 5 weeks of this.
Okay.
But what have you been up to?
I've been playing through God of War. I've been playing Helldivers 2.
Ooh.
Helldivers 2 actually just had a huge update. They have completely like overturned their entire like paradigm for like buffing and nerfing things.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically put a ton of stuff that they had like nerfed back to the way it was like at launch, sort of. They buffed a bunch of things. They changed how damage works to Helldiver so that your like random headshots aren't as common. Like headshots where it's just like you get one-shotted and you never even see where it came from or whatever. That happens a lot less, but your body, like your limbs, they get injured more easily. So basically the way that the game feels now is it feels like you can manage things as far as like doing damage to things. Like there's a lot of armored enemies that if you didn't have certain anti-armor type weapons, you couldn't do anything to them. So you had to always have something like that in your loadout. But so what they changed that where you can damage armored enemies. It's going to take longer to kill them because, you know, the weapon you have isn't optimal, but you can still do damage and stuff. So basically the way it feels is like now it's like you feel like you can do damage to a lot of things. You feel like you can manage things. You feel like you're hitting really hard with all your weapons, for the most part, you know. And then some things are like just crazy strong now. It just feels a lot more fun. It is not easier necessarily though, because your limbs get injured more easily than they used to. So you have to manage that and like, you know, so I've like been taking like, I used to only run light armor.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love the mobility of it, but now, like if I'm playing bots, I've got to take medium armor, or I'll die way too much. So, it's really big for the game. The game's like player numbers are getting back up to like 70, 80,000 concurrent. So I'm excited because it seems like it's having a good effect on the player base.
Yeah, I know a big issue that people were having was it seems like the developers kept nerfing things, which is never really a good idea in a strictly PvE game.
Yeah.
Because you want the player to feel strong.
Right.
And powerful, you know. And I get wanting things to be balanced, but like don't nerf things, make other things harder. I've always heard is like the best way to go about it. Have you noticed any of the like feeling like you've been nerfed with things that you've used?
So a lot of the things that I used throughout the game weren't really ever touched very much. You know, there were certain guns that just like when they would come out, they were so powerful. And at the time, Arrowhead would just feel like they needed to balance that out, you know, and so then it would get nerfed. So people get so used to like, oh wow, this is amazing, look how I can do this. And then next thing you know, it's like far less effective. I'm trying to think if there was anything where flame damage, that's one thing I would notice, because like flamethrowers and flame damage was really effective against chargers, and that's something I've witnessed regularly and was a very important like strategy. but they right before their fire based warbond came out, they like changed the way fire damage worked, which basically made fire damage like way less effective. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Whenever that happened, the flamethrower, people stopped bringing the flamethrower, and like it just, but so that was actually the start of them doing this. They made this 60-day commitment to the player base that they were going to prioritize, like change the priorities basically of how they balance things, instead of, changing the effectiveness of things to like make other things more viable, or people bringing more other things. They were going to try and just try to focus on fun, focus on just not nerfing things as much, basically. So they've delivered on that in a big way in this update that came out Tuesday. So I've been playing, and so it's been a lot of fun to see a lot more people on, and just to feel like you can take, like, I've been trying out different things I never would have tried before because they buffed so many things. They pretty much buffed like every gun in the game.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so they really, I feels like it's going to be a real big turnaround. I was still having fun with the game, but it was definitely, the player base was definitely dwindling a little bit.
Yeah, I know they dropped quite a bit, and it was an unfortunate thing. But it's good to hear that they're coming back.
Yeah, I think they are. I think that it'll be good going forward. It seems like they've finally found their footing on that. So
I feel like people probably got the itch too, because Space Marine 2 just came out.
Yep. Yeah.
And that was supposed to be kind of like a Helldivers 2, at least like some of the multiplayer was. But I heard right now their operations, I think is what they're called, is kind of like lacking.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't be surprised if that pushed people back to Helldivers a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be, I thought the Space Marine 2 was going to have a bigger splash than it did. Like, since it launched, it hasn't had the same kind of splash, honestly, that Helldivers 2 did. When Helldivers 2 was really going crazy and like going viral and stuff. So yeah, I think it really feels like Helldivers 2 really feels like a lot how it felt like when it was big. So, I think that's good, but yeah, so I've been playing that. I actually started reading a Robin Hobb book on, the trip I bought, Ship of Magic. Magic. It's the first book in a series. What's it called? Hold on. Book 1 of the Live Ship Traders. So I don't know if it ties in with any of her other books or series, but it's one I saw. What did you say it's called again? Ship of Magic.
Ship of Magic.
It's one that I saw Daniel Green review a few years ago, and just stuck out to me. It's been fun. It's like a naval. There's a pirate in it that's like a real prominent character. I'm still getting introduced to a lot of the characters, but I'm like 40 pages in or something. But it's been enjoyable. So
sweet.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it for me for now. So, should we get into our main topic here?
What do you say we get started?
I'm ready. My body's ready. So, Rings of Power Season 2.
Season 2 finally dropped.
How do you feel about the opening? Like, so Season 2 starts off with a big, it's like 15-minute opening.
It threw me off because did it say previously or like in the past?
What? Oh, Oh, it did. It did. It said
It did. Okay, I missed that.
it said like it said like beginning of the second age or something like.
Oh,
I think it
okay.
said like dawn of the second age or something.
Oh, okay, I missed that, so I was very confused. I caught on, quickly
Okay.
enough, but was very confused because it's been a bit since I've watched season 1, so I kind of forgot exactly where we left off.
Right.
Like I knew where we left off, but I forgot exactly everything that happened. So I was like, did I like forget something that happened? But no, it was interesting to see. I actually had I wrote down a few things,
Okay. Good.
and one of them starts there. So I'll go ahead and bring that up now. Watching him turn into or be this goo monster, I literally wrote down, what is Sauron? How was he able to survive, and why was he the goo monster in the first episode?
It was a choice for sure. So,
Like, is that a canonical lore thing, or is that just a artistic choice?
well, it's art. I mean, I think it's an artistic choice. I think it's thematic for what he is this season. So I've watched. I'm on episode 6. So,
Careful about spoilers.
I don't want to. I'm not gonna. But I was thinking about it today though. But so I think it's thematic. But so like basically, Sauron is, when it comes to a character that dies a lot in a series, like Sauron is like the chief because he's a master shapeshifter, and every time he dies, he can't take that same form again.
Yeah.
And every time he dies, it takes him longer to regain physical form. So basically, they're showing that he lost. He was just killed, but he regained. Like, they're showing like how did he regain physical form, and obviously, I think, yeah, there's different ways they could have done it. I would love to hear them talk about their inspirations. It reminds me of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Remember the goo thing in Stranger Things literally eats rats and like comes together and makes this like weird body thing in one of those seasons. I think it's 3, maybe.
I think you're right.
It also reminded me of Venom. I think that's something people have said.
I never saw Venom, but I mean, I understand the concept of him.
Well, just it moving like a symbiotic thing.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, Sauron is like, he's like Gandalf. Like, he's like that kind of a creature. He's a eternal, like, angelic creature, and when he dies, he doesn't die, his body dies, and so yeah, so that was just their choice they made for like how to show that. And like, yeah, like some of it I like, and then some of it's a little comical looking.
Yeah, it was just a little silly at times watching this thing slither across the ground.
Well, just the one that got me is when it finally gets out of the hole, and then it just like falls on the snowy mountain and just like slides. It's just like plop, slide, and it just looked really funny. But yeah, it would be interesting to circle back a little bit later on in the show to talk about why they might have done it, and thematically how they're like hinting at something, kind of an essence of Sauron, how he does things, how he works.
All right, we'll put a pin in it there then.
Yeah. So, but what about, like, moving past the Guron, as he's been.
Great. No, that's not going to go to my head.
Did the, like, kind of seeing him as, like, Halbrand pre-meeting Galadriel, what did you think of all that?
I mean, it was just I thought it was a cool way of showing how he got to where he was.
Mm.
For sure. Oh, like beyond that, it didn't really make me feel any differently about him, I guess.
Uh-huh. Well, so the thing I thought about and I noticed is like, you know, if you watch season 1 of Rings of Power, and the actor has said this, the actor played Halbrand as Halbrand. He didn't play. He was trying not to wink at the camera when he was playing Halbrand, because so that the reveal would be bigger. But in the beginning of this season, when it shows Halbrand, I feel like there's more winking at the camera. You know,
Yeah.
like it feels more obvious that he's evil and he's using people. Like even with that old man, that
Yeah.
you know, he's talking to the old man. He's saying I've done things, and he's saying like he's acting like he wants to change. But the first second he has an opportunity, decides that this guy's dead anyway, he just walks over and rips the guy's like, help me, and he just leaves him, you know.
Yeah, it definitely showed. It definitely did a good job of showing that Halbrand has always been Sauron, despite what we may have assumed in the beginning.
Right. He was
like,
always
even
like,
though we saw,
he was always planning. He was always planning.
Yeah, like even though we saw this like good-ish person in season 1, like he was always Sauron, and he was always not good and always out for himself.
Right. Yeah.
It kind of tied the reveal all together. Probably,
Yeah.
you know, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Like it felt like it kind of was like it answered that question of like, how repentant was he really? It's like, well, he wasn't really that repentant, you know. He couldn't. I like the line that the old man said, that you just keep choosing good every day until it becomes a part of your nature. And he like immediately like left the man for dead right after that. So it's like, yeah. he never really
cared.
He didn't want to do the work, you know?
No. Exactly.
He had his own idea of how he was going to make things right, and anything that, you know, anyone he could like use and abuse along the way to get that, he just went for it pretty much. So, but what'd you think of? So then you get from there. It cuts like basically it's like right. It's like an immediate pickup from the end of season 1, like right after the rings have been created. Like Galadriel's chasing Elrond. Elrond is making a beeline to the king.
The thing with the rings.
Yeah.
And this is something that like bothered me throughout that first episode. Is like I get I do appreciate the Elrond showing dissent basically and being like, I think this is corrupt, especially when he learns that it's, you know, or since he learned that Halbrand was Sauron. He's like, I don't think we should use these, and I appreciated that. The problem is I feel like the show spent a little bit too much time playing that out of like the ring, you know, Elrond wants to destroy the rings, and he's going to this guy to destroy the rings, and oh, is it going to happen? And I remember turning to Stephanie and being like, we already know that this doesn't happen. Like, why are we spending so much time on it? I get the little bit of time because it shows, once again, Elrond's dissent, not wanting to use the rings and all that. But, like, I felt like there's a point where you're just spending too much time focused on, like, what are going to happen to the rings, you know? When, like, we obviously already know that the rings are used.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, because of the whole thing, like in the book, or in like the story, the Silmarillion and other places where it's written, you know, the rings were made, and Sauron was working, you know, with Celebrimbor, but then the 3 rings, he actually didn't know about the 3 rings.
He didn't?
And no, he didn't. But they also didn't know he was Sauron. And then he made the One Ring. And then when he made the One Ring and put it on, they both were like, it's that meme of like the two cars passing each other and they're like looking at each other, you know? It was like like whenever he put on his ring, they realized they were aware of him and that he was Sauron and what he was doing, and he was aware of the three rings, and he was like, they hid these like rings from me.
Oh, interesting.
So then he got all ticked off. It was like, they weren't even really working with me, blah blah blah. But so the point is that because
getting mad at someone doing exactly what you're doing. Sorry, continue.
It's like I know I'm bad, but be honest, like with me. But like, because the show is making them aware that Sauron was involved, they have to kind of make a fair play of the fact that, like, why would they even use the rings if they know Sauron had wanted them to make rings, you know? You know what I mean? Like, I see what you're saying. It's like, there's no suspense because it's not like we're like, oh, are they going to destroy him? You know, there's no suspense there. But there is like the believability of, like, we have to believe that they're acting like in a way that is how you would expect them to act if, like, they found out Sauron, this might be like part of Sauron's plan. You know what I mean? For sure.
And that's what I said, like, I definitely like appreciate Elrond's part and what he, like, what his part is in the story. And in that sense, it just got to the point where I was just like, man, I feel like we're just spending a little bit too much time on this.
But you just like put them on for Pete's sake.
Yeah, basically. You're just like, just like, I don't know.
Heal the tree.
Heal the tree.
One thing I did.
Idiots. It's gonna work.
One thing that somebody on Reddit or something reminded me of, there's a quote in Lord of the Rings in the Council of Elrond where they're discussing the three rings. Like, Gimli brings up, like, weren't there 3 elven rings, and whatever happened to those? Does anybody use those? And Elrond, you know, is like, yeah, there were. He doesn't say whether he has one or not, but basically in that scene in the book of Lord of the Rings, Elrond says, like, we shouldn't have used the rings. Like, even though they have been helpful, like, and they were never touched by Sauron, and so he can't, like, control the elves through them, but at the same time, they were a part of his design, and so, like, they still, and they've had, like, negative effects of us, like, becoming complacent and things like that, because we can just keep our lands preserved and stuff. So, like, it was a very book accurate, like, as far as Elrond's reaction, it was very book accurate for him to be like, just like, we can't use them no matter what. Even though he does end up with one.
Yeah, I looked up afterwards who ends up, because I know Galadriel keeps her ring throughout the entirety.
Right.
And I was curious about where, I know Gandalf got one, and I didn't know if Elrond had got one or not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that happens in the show with how, like, against using them he's been, because, yeah. But, yeah, I see what you're saying, though. What'd you think of Círdan, the shipwright, the elf at the Grey Havens with the beard, the bearded elf?
Not much. I mean, I don't know anything about him. That's the thing. Okay. It's like, I don't really know the lore. I appreciate his loyalty to Elrond.
Yeah.
It did give me a little bit of a chuckle, though, when he's about to throw them into the sea, and then something knocks the boat, opens up slightly, and he's just like, all right, I changed my mind. And now I understand the importance of, like, this is supposed to show how almost, like, lustful the rings cause you to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it did give me a good chuckle.
I think there might be a little bit of a hint of divine intervention too. Like,
yeah, I got that vibe.
I don't know exactly, all the reasons, but like it was like, and I think that was probably part of his motivation was like the exact moment I'm going to drop this in this like place where it's going to destroy them. Something like hits the boat and, stops me from dropping them in.
I do just love Syl. Hi, Syl. I do just love, though, this, once again, I don't know this character. I don't know the lore, so I don't know his importance. But this character that's just introduced in this episode, and he's helping Elrond, and he's about to throw the rings. And literally, with like 10 minutes later, he now has one of the 3 rings. It made me laugh so hard. I was like, wait a minute. Huh? And you're just gonna let him?
Yeah, he just like walks up wearing it. And it's just like, this is mine now. You guys can pick one of these. You guys can pick from these 2.
Hey, there's 2, but I'm keeping this one.
Yeah, I'm keeping this one, just so you know. I didn't destroy it, I'm keeping it.
What's his important? Like, he's? I'm assuming he's in the lore.
Oh, yeah. He's super important. He's one of my favorite elves from the lore. He's the elf that runs the Grey Havens, where, like, elves that want to go back to the Undying Lands, they leave from the Grey Havens, and he maintains that land, that maintains like the Grey Havens and makes sure that there's ships that are always running for elves. And he actually never goes, like I don't think he's ever been to the Undying Lands, and he never goes to the Undying Lands until he takes the ring bearers and the last elves, like until the last elf has been taken at the end of like Lord of the Rings. Yeah, so he's just like a really noble elf. He's one of the oldest elves too. That's why he has a beard, because there's like, there's this book called The Nature of Middle Earth, and it goes into all these like detailed notes Tolkien had, where he had actually some hard systems in his mind of like elves, like reproduction, like how often do they have kids, like how long do they live, like what's their stages of life. And there's like, he was like one of the few elves that were in that stage of life to like have, grow a beard and start to look somewhat old, with like white hair and stuff. So did you read anything else about him from the lore whenever you were looking up like who got rings? Did you look at anything?
No, I didn't go into detail. I just looked up to see if I was just questioning, because I was in the middle of watching the show. I just wanted to see if Elrond got it, and then I also was just like, I'll ask Josh.
Oh, well, you saw that he has a ring, so I'm not spoiling anything there. So yeah, so he's one of the original 3 ring bearers too. So that is
lore accurate. I assume that they're going to keep that lore accurate.
Yeah, so that's lore accurate, and I mean it does make sense. He is a lord. He is one of the oldest elves in Middle Earth. Like, it does make sense for him to get one.
I do just think it's, and it does. I think the point was that they kind of come off as divine intervention-esque,
right?
But I did think how each of the 3 got their rings was really funny. Like he just is just like, all right, this is mine. The other one falls in front of Galadriel. She's in trouble right now. Like, they're not happy with her, and she's just like, all right, this one's mine. and then is it Gil-galad?
Yeah.
He's just like, oh well, now I need one. Like,
I only have one choice here.
Guess this one's mine.
I guess blue.
I don't know. It was like, like I said, I do think it was a lot of meant to be like, especially Galadriel, like a divine intervention thing. Like, it fell in front of her.
Right.
But
I could see
it does seem in the moment it seemed very strange, just because like she is kind of like in hot water at the moment.
Right. Her and Gil-galad are actually related in the book. Like, they're not talking about it, but they're like cousins.
Yeah, I do know that.
So it's nepotism. So he's just giving her unfair multiple chances. But anyway,
some would say too many.
What do you think about Galadriel in the first 2 episodes? Any, like, I don't know if you had strong opinions on her in the first season, but
The problem is I couldn't tell you if I had any strong opinions because it's been a while. I should have done a rewatch, but it's been so busy. I didn't even realize this was coming out until a week before it came out. To be honest with you,
lucky you.
I've been so busy. Honestly, but because of that, I wanted to go back and watch it, and I will eventually, probably here soon, because I just maybe want to rewatch the first season. But I don't remember having too many. I feel like they did pretty well. I know a lot of people were saying that she was like one of those like boss girls who could do nothing wrong, and I was like, I feel like that was kind of the opposite of her character, was that she did a lot wrong, and
yeah,
that was the point. Including not realizing that Sauron is Sauron.
I know she messed up a lot in the first season, which that's what you're seeing in the second season. She's more humble, and
so I do think she is. I appreciate. She seems to be coming off more humble. She's coming off more humble in her Galadriel elf-esque way. I think a lot of people are also kind of attributing humanistic tributes to elves, and elves are just notoriously, especially in the Tolkien universe, just kind of stuck up. And so, like, even being humble, she's going to be stuck up about it to an extent. But she is. I think I've seen her. It seems like she realizes that she screwed up. I mean, even going to Elrond at the end there, when she asks him to join her, and she's just like, he has gotten into my head, you know,
right?
Like this did happen. I do need help,
right?
And I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Obviously, you know, because you've watched it. I'm curious to see what's going to happen in the next episode with the fact that Elrond is the one that's leading the group to the city. To Celebrimbor.
The Fellowship of the Elves.
But I've liked. I mean, I've had no issues with her and her story in this so far. You know, other than the few silly things like with the rings. But I mean, she's just continued to plead her case and do her normal thing. And once again, she's Galadriel. She is like, she kind of is excuse my language, but a boss bitch. Like, you know. And so I never saw, even in the first season, as like that Mary Sue-esque or just like too cool because she's a girl. I just didn't see it, and I don't really see it now. I've been enjoying the story. I'm curious to see what's going to end up happening. I want to see her interact again more with Halbrand or Sauron, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely has to happen. Like, she has to have another showdown.
Like, that whole relationship thing, that's not lore accurate, is it?
No, there's not. There was never a time where they were like that much proximity for that long. I mean...
So that sounds like that's new for everybody.
I think there's an implication of a rivalry. You know, I think it's because she was very powerful. She was a ring bearer, and she had a lot of ambition. You know, and so her reaction when Frodo, you know, she's like one of those characters that, out of all the characters that could have been given the One Ring, that Sauron would have been afraid of getting it, because it's not like the Peter Jackson movies. It's not necessarily like putting the ring on doesn't automatically make you just give Sauron the ring, you know. Mm-hmm. So like if he was afraid of Aragorn using the ring, he was afraid of he would have been afraid of Galadriel, probably, or Gandalf too, of using it. So like from that perspective, you know, it's, you know, fair to like portray this idea of like, what if he could have brought her to his side, you know, because that is something he did want. He did try in the story, in the book. He tried to get more influence in Galadriel and Gil-galad. And they just sussed him out, and they didn't know he was Sauron, but they were just like, no. But
something ain't right here.
But Celebrimbor was the, you know, one who was drawn in, and so that's not lore accurate for her to have been drawn in, but it definitely, to me, it's making an very interesting thing for her to have to. They're making this her big sin that she has to make up for, because remember in Lord of the Rings, she says, I passed the test, so I can go into the West, basically. It's like
Mhm.
because in the lore, she had like some stuff in her past that she wasn't really allowed to go back. And so this is like their version of like, well, what if this was the reason? Because they can't cover the lore reasons because they don't have the rights. So I feel like they're doing this instead, which, it's interesting. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it so far.
But well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out and their confrontation whenever it happens. But so moving on to the dwarves. There's some stuff going on with them, right? With their mountain.
Yeah, obviously we still have Durin in his issue with his father. But during all this, I guess probably around the time that Mount Doom erupts, they get an earthquake and a couple of the sun tower sun area things collapse, so they're not getting proper food. There wasn't too much of the dwarves in the first two episodes.
It's basically setting up a crisis for their kingdom.
Yeah, I feel like it was setting up for them ending up wanting to get the rings too. I feel like is what this was really doing, because that's how it ended. The second episode ended with a letter from Celebrimbor. I'm assuming Celebrimbor to Durin about wanting to get them rings.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that like right as the elves use their rings to like heal the tree and like. Seems like they're going to be able to stick around. Then now the dwarves have a crisis. Mm-hmm. So I like how they did it that way, where they're like, let's make it a thing where there's like these crises are like driving, people to this point where it's going to play into, Sauron's hand.
What do you think of Durin's wife?
I like her. I like her pretty well. I think she's very ambitious and very outspoken, and I just wonder if she's going to push, Durin in a direction that is going to be a problem. What do you think about her?
I think she's the perfect embodiment of a dwarven woman.
Yeah.
Like if I think dwarven woman, like her attitude wise, and temperamentality, I feel like she plays a dwarf woman very well, especially a dwarf wife.
Yeah, I love
like how she stands up
to the king.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I love all the way they talk about like stay or axe, like I love all the different ways they, reference.
Dwarves are always interesting. Stuff.
Yeah. No, I like her a lot. She's one of those original characters that really stand out as really good characters, like a Rondir and stuff. What about the Harfoots and the Stranger?
It's Gandalf, right? Like we're established.
I think it probably
that was his staff chilling there in his little vision thing. Like
I know. People are still holding out for him being a blue wizard.
He's not going to be a blue wizard. He's going to be Gandalf, and we all know it. Which I'm not opposed to.
Did we see a dark wizard yet?
Yes, I have that written. Who is this dark wizard with the weird moth people and the assassins? Do we know who that is? Is that going to be like? I'm sure it's going to be mentioned in a later episode. Is this going to be a Raffo?
I don't have any. Sorry to say, I don't have any answers for you there on who it is. But my theory is two possibilities, so there's two possibilities in my mind. They could be doing that's a blue wizard, because there's two versions of the blue wizards. What happened to them? They both went to the east, Okay, so that's why people think maybe this is a blue wizard because they're going east to Rune. So both the blue wizards went to the east, and in one version of the story, they end up like helping the east stand against the influence of Sauron and keeping Sauron from gaining a larger foothold and more forces in the east. In another version, they fail in their task. They become the leaders of dark cults in the east.
Oh.
And so, two things could be happening. They could be doing the Blue Wizard story, like giving Gandalf the good version of the Blue Wizard story, and then this other dark wizard could be the evil version of the Blue Wizard story. Or they could both be blue wizards, and the and the one who is they're coding as Gandalf, they could be coding him as Gandalf to be telling us he's the good blue wizard, you know, because he's doing all the things the good wizard we saw in the Lord of the Rings movies did.
He's Gandalf. Come on, we don't need to play this game.
I think that's probably the most probable because you've already looked at who gets rings, right?
Yes, Gandalf gets a ring.
Okay. So that was my thing when the show first started. I was like, it as much as like lore-wise, technically Gandalf didn't get there that early. It would make sense to have him in the show called The Rings of Power, you know, and show him getting a ring at some point.
Does he get the ring during the Second Age, or does he get it during the Third Age?
He gets it in the book. He gets it right when he gets to Middle Earth. One of the three ring bearers gives up their ring and says, "I think you're going to need this more than I do." And
when does he get to Middle Earth, lore wise?
Beginning of the Third Age. So not now, but there were some wizards. The blue wizards came in. There's one version of the story where the blue wizards came in the Second Age. So. Like, once again, they could be giving Gandalf some of the Blue Wizard plotline. You know?
I could see it.
Adaptations do that, you know?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that crazy. And a lot of people don't want it to be Gandalf. They want it to be Blue Wizard. But I'm not that, like... I'm fine with Gandalf origin story. I was from the beginning. You know, so... But I also won't be upset if it's a blue wizard, as long as they do it well. Make us like it'd be cool to be like, oh, now we know who the blue wizards are, you know, and what they did and stuff.
I feel like it's gonna be Gandalf just because Gandalf is a bigger name,
right? It definitely,
and he definitely feels like just to me like the actor and then the character in general just kind of feels, especially in these few episodes I've watched so far, feel more Gandalf-y.
Yeah, no, definitely. They've given him Gandalf lines, you know, like at the end of the first season. He said the follow your nose thing. Mm-hmm.
And obviously being around the Harfoots,
right.
halflings, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying, oh, this is why he has this affinity for hobbits, you know. So,
I'm curious as to what's going to happen because at the end of that second episode, obviously there, you know, I mean, not too much happens with them in the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're traveling. Gandalf does a couple power things. We get the second Harfoot comes in. The friend joins them.
Right. Which is interesting.
But really the big thing was when the assassins catch up to them and Gandalf, that's what I'm calling him. I was calling him Gandalf. Basically makes that giant cyclone, like a cyclone or what, a tornado, dust storm. And like that whole part with them ends with the 2 Harfoots being blown away.
Yeah, like,
and I'm like, oh, are they dead? What's going to happen?
Wizard of Oz. Do those riders, the guys that he was blowing away, that he was trying to fight off, do they give you like Ring Wraith vibes at all?
Yeah, the symbol kind of does.
Yeah, the symbol.
And then just
they're on horses.
Yeah,
they're on horses. They're wearing masks. You can't see their faces. I'm almost wondering. I don't know if all of them, but I'm almost wondering if those will be some Ring Wraiths, because that's like 5 right there. You got 5 knocked out. you know, if somehow Sauron ends up over there giving out rings or something. So I don't know. That's something I thought on my rewatch earlier. And they have like some kind of problem with their. They said he has some kind of. He said they have like a skin disease or something. They have some kind of issue.
I don't remember.
Like that's why they're working for the Dark Wizard, because he's like they're like. That's what he said. He's like, if you bring me the Harfoots or whatever, then I'll do it. Something like that. So, but
I'm curious to see what happens when. Oh, excuse me. Gandalf gets to his staff, and all that. Like, it seems like when he gets to his staff, he'll probably get a lot of memories back.
Right. Yeah, because when he held the staff of the witches, like the bad people from the first season, he regained a lot of ability to talk and stuff like that. Yeah. So, I think that the showrunners have said that they will definitively say. It's just a matter of like how definitive will it be definitive enough, because they might think that they're making it really clear, but then there's people that are still holding on, you know.
Yeah, I mean there'll always be.
So, I just would like them to just start calling him by his name instead of stranger, you know, like.
I feel like we're getting there though with the whole her trying to name him things.
One thing that's funny about that, I'll say, which it's not a big, it doesn't bug me too much, but it's just funny. So like when she's trying to give him a name, he's like, you can't give someone a name. They have it already, and when they hear it, they know it's like it already belongs to them or something like that. What's funny about that is like Gandalf, he at one point in the book, he's like listing off all his different names he has. And all his names, they're all what people call him. It's like in the West they call me Gandalf. In the elves call me Mithrandir. They call me in the South they call me whatever it is, Sharkun or something like that. You know, so he's got like all these different names for where all the different places he goes, and it's all like his names are what people have given him. So it's just funny that, you know, he's saying you can't give someone a name. It's like literally what happened, how he has a name in the books, but.
Maybe it's not Gandalf.
But I mean, I don't hate the line. Like I sort of liked that line. It's just funny because of the reality in the book.
Yeah.
Like, but
it's character growth.
They're trying to make it a significant thing that when he hears his name, he'll be like,
yeah,
that was character growth. He gets used to people calling him names.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, okay.
Character growth. What
Numenor. Oh no! What were you gonna say?
Sauron's storyline.
Okay, his present
thoughts. Like what? I'm a little confused by his plan initially going into Mordor.
Yeah, like to get caught or something.
Like he got caught just to be like, I know information, let me go.
Because he wants the orcs to go.
I know he wants
them to go. He's like, it's literally, I was thinking this when I was watching it. It's literally Clone Wars. Like, he's playing both sides of this war. He wants to play both sides of the war. So he wants the orcs and Adar to go attack where Celebrimbor is. He wants them to go take on the elves, you know. So he tells them, oh yeah, Sauron is over there, even though he's going to go be the one, he's going to go over there and be Sauron and do the thing that he says, like they're making a new powerful thing, a new weapon, and you need to go stop them, you know. And he's like doing that so he wants them to come over there, basically, and take out this elven powerhouse, you know, because Eregion, it was a huge, you know, between, like, there was this huge open area of land between Eregion and Lindon, where Gil-galad is. So Gil-galad's in the west part of the Middle Earth, like western west part of the
Yeah.
And then Region's kind of in the middle next to the Misty Mountains. And so it's a really important, like, strategic point that if you take that out, then you have, like, you're completely open. Like, the land between that and Gil-galad is completely open. You can just march all the way down there. So yeah, he's playing. He's just, like, everything he's doing. He's setting up the pieces, and he's, getting them to go exactly the direction he wants. So when Sauron is in the prison, and he tells Waldrick that he's gonna kill him,
I love that scene.
He tames the warg. And
I think that was a good part in showing, like, Sauron. That was my good indicator that he wants what's happening to happen, because that kind of showed me, like, he has the ability to get out and to control.
Right. He's not.
Like, I knew he was in control as it was, but, like, that was really the big indicator of, like, all right, like, he tamed this warg, like, he's in control. But yeah, I really like the scene when he leaves, and then the guy kicks the thing, and it ends up being the collars of the warg.
Yeah, that was funny.
Black speech is it black speech? Dark speech?
Black speech, yeah.
Sounds really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and he, like, that delivery was great. It's a little Easter egg too, because one of Sauron's names in the canon is Lord of Werewolves. He takes the form of a giant wolf at one point, to fight a giant hound, an elven hound, and he loses that battle. He loses the fight in wolf form. But it's just, like, that's kind of like a cool Easter egg. Like, it's not just the fact that he's Sauron. It's like, in the lore, he was, like, in charge of wolves. Like, he had, like, a pack of wolves and stuff. So it's kind of a callback.
Yeah, I liked all that, but I didn't. I'm still a little confused by Celebrimbor. And his, like, I know Galadriel didn't tell him that he was Sauron, but she was very much like, you are not to treat with him anymore.
Right.
And Galadriel is a pretty prominent figure, and Elrond also said, don't do this. And yet he didn't, until he did. It was like a day.
Yeah. Right.
And then he's...
Well, it rained.
Oh, I mean, poor Halbrand. I don't know. It's just like one of those things where, like, I get it, but, like, at the same time, he just... Now, once he's up there and all that happens, I'm like, okay, I understand that, like, why, like, I understand the deception now, like, that it's definitely working. But, like, initially, it's just like, he gave in kind of easily. But then again, it also comes down to going back to, like, the vain nature of, like, he wanted to know about the rings. So I do understand that.
Yeah, I think, well, he played up that, like, before he even invited him in, when he went out and talked to him, because he just wouldn't leave, Celebrimbor or Sauron definitely, like, he played into the area of insecurity, where it's like, isn't that just like them to treat the craftsmen? They'll take it if they like it, do whatever they want, and then don't even, like, tell you if they won't even talk to you about it, or they can't give you a second thought. So yeah, I mean, yes, he did do that. I think that's a character flaw. At least that's the way they're painting his character, is that he has that character flaw of insecurity because of his father was Feanor. Feanor is, like, the greatest elven craftsman, made the Silmarils, that captured the light of the two trees, and blah blah blah. There were, like, wars fought over the Silmarils and stuff. So But yeah, it is a little quick. But also, I think it's the seductive nature. It's like you think you can just like. It's like, well, what's it going to harm if we just talk for a minute, you know?
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, he's in the forge, and then it's like, well, what's it going to hurt if we just talk a little more? And then next thing you know, he's
an angel of light.
An angel, a literal angel, and it's like, which I think they did a great job with that part.
I agree, 100%.
Because when you see that, you're like, okay, you can't really blame him at that point.
I was wondering, because I know Sauron eventually had to go back because he helps make the other rings as well as the One Ring.
Right.
And so in my mind, I was like, how are they going to do that? Because once again, Galadriel had kind of said no. And then they also know Halbrand is Sauron. So like, is he going to come back? And then when he went back as Halbrand, I was like, I'm confused. I would assume he'd have a different visage.
Right.
Speaking of, the actor as an elf looks completely different than as a human. It is kind of wild. I was watching, I was like, is that the same actor?
Right.
Did they just get rid of the actor?
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what all they've done besides shave him and give him a wig, because it does look, it looks there's a resemblance. Mm-hmm. But even his face, and maybe it's somehow he holds his mouth or something, because his head looks shorter.
It looks slimmer.
Yeah, slimmer
as well, like an elf, more fair, I guess you could say, like an elf.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting, and it definitely looks a lot better in the show than the promotional picture. Mm-hmm. The promotional picture of him as Sauron looking like an elf looks weird for some reason, but in the show it looks fine.
Yeah, I'll definitely say during that whole sequence, really most of Sauron's sequences in the first two episodes, I mean, I remember just thinking wow, yeah, he's definitely a master of deception.
Yeah, it's only I'm excited for you to keep going, because I definitely think that's a part of the show they're getting really right. So
yeah, I mean, beyond that though, man, I just gotta say the production value is just on point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The show
amazing.
Looks phenomenal.
Yeah. I think it looks better than the first season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can hate this show, you can hate the story, you can hate all the characters, but man, the production value is this is what, not to bring it back to the Acolyte, but this is what the Acolyte should have looked like with their crap ton of money
for one season.
It is, and Amazon has been doing a really good job with their shows, is their production value. I mean, it is just phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. Was there Numenor stuff in the first two episodes? I'm trying to remember. Okay. Yeah, that'll probably be the next episode then.
No, I think we pretty much hit all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll be back for the rest of it.
I am very excited.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a wild ride. I mean, I'm pretty well through it, but there's still some stuff that's gonna happen. It's gonna be pretty mind blowing this season, and the only bummer is the wait for the next season. If it's another 2 years or whatever. But yeah.
And by then I'll probably have another kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I'm excited to continue to see what happens. And obviously to get back on the bridge and talk about it.
Definitely. Well, as we say, I don't know if we can do this.
We can do it.
I don't know if it'll sync up right, but we could try.
As we edit it, you just gotta sync it up right.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
No problem.
We could do completely off of each other, and we could still sync it up.
That's true. The power of technology. The power of recording the separate audio files.
There you go.
as we say, this has been the Bridge of Two podcast. A far, far away bridge.